Hey everybody, Chris Lazarus here with Sellect Realty in Marietta, Georgia, and today we're going to dive into contingencies. We're going to talk about what they are and how they protect you in a real estate contract. Stay tuned as we continue our buyer series answering your questions about real estate. Hey everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please do me a favor, click that subscribe button right below, hit the little bell, and make sure you get updated whenever we release information for you in your home buying process. We've covered a lot so far in this series. Today we're going to talk about contingencies. So first off, what is a contingency? A contingency, I'll put the definition below, like right here somewhere, or maybe up here, over here. I'll put it over here. A contingency is an event that has to happen, basically, in order for the contract to go through. So there are a lot of contingencies that could end up being a part of a real estate contract, but there are two that are really common. The first is a financing contingency. And basically, that says that as a buyer, you have a certain number of days to put your financing in order, and if you get denied during those certain days, you get to terminate the contract, you give the denial letter, and you walk away and you get your earnest money back. It means that you get to walk away from that contract without penalty, which is huge because this is a big transaction. You're trying to buy several $100,000 worth of real estate, and if that doesn't work out, you're off the hook scot-free. So your financing contingency is the number one most common contingency in a real estate contract. The only times that we don't see those are usually on cash sales. So if you're going after a mortgage, you're going to have a financing contingency. The second is an appraisal contingency. The appraisal contingency states that the property has to appraise for a certain value, otherwise the buyer can do a couple of things. One, you can request that the seller reduce the price to the appraised value. You can come up out of pocket in addition to whatever the appraised value is. So for example, say you're buying a house for $200,000 and it appraises for $195,000. In that situation, you can choose to just spend an extra $5,000. But that's outside of the contract. It's outside of your down payment. It's within the contract, but it's outside of your down payment. So if your down payment is going to be based off of $195,000, let's say your down payment is $10,000, you're going to have to put an extra $5,000 in to make up that difference from $195 to $200, which is the contract price. The third option is you walk away. If the seller doesn't reduce the price to an appraised value, you have the right under your contingency that you can terminate the contract without penalty. That is huge. That's a major protection for you as a buyer, because if you may not know, or the market may be setting it so that you're setting constant highs and new price points for a neighborhood. This allows it to make sure that there's a third party that says, hey, look, I've reviewed this. I think this is okay. This is the price that I think that this house is worth. You have a third party that you can rely on for that. Now, if the seller, there is a fourth option in the appraisal side. Say it's a $5,000 difference. The buyer can choose to spend an extra $2,500 and the seller can choose to come down $2,500. If there's a lot of demand for that property, it might be worth spending a little bit more out of pocket to help the seller offset that and get the seller to come down a little bit, you come up a little bit, and everybody gets the house and gets the house sold. It's a win-win. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. It depends on the market conditions and how much demand there is for the property. But that is an option. So I've covered financing contingency. We've covered appraisal contingency. Your due diligence, we talked about in another video, our last video. Your due diligence is actually a type of contingency. It is considered what's called an option contract until the end of due diligence. So you have that entire period, which is usually somewhere between 7 and 14 days. Most commonly, it's around 10. So it's somewhere around 10 days that you get to inspect the property. And you can terminate for any reason during that 10 days or whatever's negotiated upon. You can terminate without penalty using a Georgia Association of Realty contract. So the contingency basically is you're out in the contract. Now, if you are planning to terminate under a contingency, I recommend that you read the wording really carefully, because there are certain things that you can and cannot terminate for under a contingency. For example, in the financing contingency, you can't terminate because you don't have the down payment. That is not an acceptable way to terminate. You also can't terminate if you've been dragging your feet on giving documents to the lender so that they can't process your application in time. So you have to be diligent in the things that you're doing through the contract. You have to work as if the contract is as if you're trying to do everything possible to work as if you're trying to get the contract to go through. If you can do that and you work in good faith and it still doesn't work out, that's where the contingencies protect you. I'm Chris Lazarus. With a head broker, I am the head broker of Sellect Realty. I'm also one of the owners, and we're a family-owned company. We're veteran-founded, woman-owned, and we're right here in the heart of East Cobb. If you have any questions about any market in the metro Atlanta area, let us know. We have agents from Jonesboro to Jasper, so we cover the south of the Atlanta airport all the way up to the mountains, and we are here for you and your community. We'll see you next week.